Life for Productivity. For those of you who are new, my name is Andrea and today we are planning November, my favorite month of the year. Can you guess why? Well, I think that would be lying. I think everybody's favorite month is December. I don't know. Let's have a discussion about that in the comments. Anyways, I am doing a very much fall theme for this month because you know, it is fall and I love the colors and I love the aesthetics, and I felt very much like doodling today, so you'll see a lot of that. And I thought that we should make these videos a bit more balanced between, you know, creating spreads and just talking to you a little more about the planning, you know, process and what it is that I am doing to create these kinds of spreads. So for starters, in this video you will see a tutorial on how to make that letter, because I know that sometimes just seeing it isn't enough for you guys to recreate it. So I will explain to you how to create that kind of font, and then you'll also see the typical things that we do on the plan with me as well. I'll set up and walk you through my decisions and what it is that I'm doing, and finally a little bit of a walkthrough as to why the spreads are what they look like. So grab your cup of coffee and let's get started. For the cover page, I decided to go with a big fancy serif N with some doodles around it just to kind of play along with this fall theme. So the first thing is we're going to try to create this N for you guys, and the basic idea of this N is two thin lines on the sides and then a very thick kind of center diagonal line with a little bit of serif in the corners. This is kind of what we're going for. This is the N that we're going to create. So to get started, you kind of want to count the same amount of cells at the top and the bottom so that it's centered on the page. Mine is not that centered, but that's fine by me. Do the same on the sides, the same number of dots, and that's perfect. So for example, mine, I know it's going to start here and here, and this is probably going to be the top and the bottom, right? That's just the sides. Then we're going to create the sides of the N, and those are going to be a thickness of one cell only. So as you can see here, I'm just going to go over one cell and just create lines all the way to the top of the square that I had created and to the bottom, right? And then the same on the other side. Perfect, so those are going to be our sides to our N, and now we're going to go ahead and make the little serifs on the corners. So what I did is that at the bottom where your N kind of ends, as you can see, that will be over here, you are going to take two cells to either side. So 1, 2, it's going to be over there, and then to the other side, 1, 2. There you go, and then you're going to make two cells to the top as well. So 1, 2 on either side. 1, 2, and that way it's going to give you like a very nice triangle. You're just going to trace out the shape, and it's going to give you this very thick, nice triangle, and that's the shape that we're going for in our serifs here. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And finally, we're going to do that once more on the top corner of our N. This way, you're only going to do it towards the outside because the inside is going to have the diagonal line. So you're going to go 2 cells on the outside and then again 2 cells down. It's going to give you this nice little even triangle on the side. There, that looks super nice. Finally, to finish off the N, you want to do the thick line in the middle. And again, for every single lettering that you're creating, the most important thing is to have even thicknesses of the stripes. So whatever is going down or up, you want them to be even. You would want these two to be even and these two lengths to be even. So we're just going to mark the points at where we're going to start. So we're going to start here, and then we're going to go down 2, 4, 6, 7 squares, and that's going to be the thickness of our diagonal line. You're going to do the same thing at the bottom. So here, 2, 4, 6. And then basically you're just going to trace the diagonal line from point to point, right? So this one's going to go over along this line and this one along this line. And that is it. You've got yourselves a little fancy, cute N, and now all we're going to do is trace it and color it in. After I sketched the N, I went in and outlined it with the same color that I'm going to fill it in. I decided to go with the crimson red to make this a very bold, bright page. Then I went in with the 03 micron pen to kind of outline all of the doodles, and as you see, I decided that that was not good enough. I didn't like it, so I replaced this with the 05 and re-outlined all the doodles. And finally, I added pops of yellow and olive green to the doodle in order to make this a bit more colorful and fun spread. For the monthly spread, I went with a big layout with very big boxes. I think there's 6 cells each, and I outlined these with an olive green marker. The idea in the spread is to hide that big fancy N behind the calendar, and I decided to go with olive green for the lettering. Underneath the N, I added a square for notes that I might want to keep for this month. And on the right side of the page, I added the same doodles that I added on the cover page. Again, I went in with the 05 micron pen, colored it in with the same yellow, olive green, red, and brown. On the notes section, I added a yellow drop shadow, and for the calendar, I had originally done a green shadow, but I didn't really like that, so I went in with black to make this a little bit more bold. And finally, for the numbers, I decided to make little green dots that I would then fill in with a white Jelly Roll pen. On these 2 pages, I am drawing the goals page and the habit tracker next to it. I started by drawing in a serif G. This one I'll color in black, and then underneath I made these weird squares that are colored in with the same colors of the theme, and that's where I'll be writing in the goals for the month. I then added some doodles around this kind of drawing, and I just wanted to make these a bit more random, not so organized. I went in with the 05 micron pen and the same colors to fill in the doodles. Underneath the main goals section, I added 4 smaller sections for each week of the month. So week 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I just went in with some cursive lettering and a red blob underneath. For the habit tracker, I really changed up the setup this time. I went with 6 individual trackers for the habits that I'm going to track this month. And for each one of these, I did 2 rows. I did something a little bit weird and unusual. Let me just explain. This is super important. For this habit tracker, you would normally just write 1 through 15 and then 16 through 30. But I want to be able to have the days over here because a lot of the time I don't really remember what date it is, but I know the day, and I just always like to have them aligned. So for November, Sunday is the 1st, and then the 15th is also a Sunday. So I aligned them in order to fit the days, right? So instead of writing the 15th over here, which would be Sunday, and then continuing over here, I moved the 15th to the bottom so that it would be on Sunday, and the 16th would be on Monday. And that way you can have the days aligned in their proper dates. And then I just repeated the same thing on the rest of the habits. At the bottom, I created a serif H that I painted in yellow in order to highlight that this is the habits page, and continue with the theme of serif font and bright colors. And then because I had 1 square left at the corner of each habit tracker, I decided to fill in what color I would be using to fill in the rest of that habit tracker for each one. The next spread is the run tracker and the review, and for this one I went in with sporadic doodles across all of the pages, kind of outlining the table, again with the 05 micron pen and the same colors that I've been using. I actually just did blobs of color for these. I colored in the heading of the table with a dark red. The little circle at the bottom of the table is going to be for the total number of runs I did that month. And I colored in the serif R with a black marker. And finally, the last spread of this setup was a really fun one to create. This one is going to be kind of like a brain dump page. I'll explain a little more about it in the video. But what I wanted for this page was to create kind of like a leaves falling drawing. So I did leaves at the bottom, leaves throughout the page, and I colored in with the same colors that we've been using. monthly spread. The main idea here is to be able to plan. I don't do that much future planning in this spread. I do some of it, the gist, the important dates, the things that I really want to keep track of. But I realized in a few past months that I kind of use this as a tracker, like a retrospective tracker. I love to write down data and runs and weight and things that I did and little things maybe that I have to do that I just want to keep in mind. So this is really a visual kind of map for me, and that's why I decided to give it so much space for me to be able to fill in as much as I wanted. I kind of wanted to do it black and white, but you know, I ended up doing lots and lots of colors, so we'll see how that turns out. So for this goals habit spread thing, you've seen that in the past months I normally do a dashboard kind of like these, but for this month I decided to simplify it a little more and just track the basics, habits, that's it. Actually I'm lying because I also tracked runs, which you'll see in a moment. But the idea was to just go back to basics, track the habits that I'm actually really working towards, and just summarize a little bit of the goals. I'm using one of the principles that I talk about in my book for planning your goals, and that is breaking things down into a timeline, into actionable steps that you can take in a moment's time. So what I did is I gave some space over here at the top to write in all of my goals, which I'll talk about right now. And then at the bottom, I gave 4 spaces for the 4 weeks of the month, in which the idea is to basically write in one sentence, one bullet, very summarized, what it is that I'm going to do to achieve each one of those goals. Now this should get super interesting as I go, because what I normally do is I will take, let's take October. So these are my goals for October. And then for each one of those goals, I will try to have an actionable step that I write in the goals section of any weekly tracker. So you can see that I have the goals that go along with the original goals that I made for October. And the idea is to do the same thing, but to be able to brain dump some of that a little bit earlier in the month. So for example, I can say, okay, one of my goals is to launch Pinterest this month. Spoiler alert. And I can say, okay, on week 1 I'm going to do research, on week 2 I'm going to do a lot of content, and on week 3 I'm going to build the Pinterest boards, and on week 4 I'm going to advertise. And I can write those things down over here in advance instead of having to do it as I go every week. Moving on, the habit tracker this month is actually quite not the style that I normally do. I normally do one chart that has, you know, the habits and the days, but I was feeling kind of bored with that. I wanted something a little bit more aesthetic, I guess, and that kind of isolated each habit because I feel like it was just getting all jumbled up in my mind, and I really wanted to focus on each one of those habits and be able to reflect on each one. So this is why we have this tracker this month, and as you can see, these are the habits that I'll be doing. And then finally, the last 2 spreads, and a very huge tip that I have for you guys is track anything that you're working towards. So this month, for example, I want to keep running. I am on this runner's, I don't know, journey, I don't know what it is, but I'm really inspired to keep doing it, and usually a tracker will motivate me because not only do I have a place for accountability, not only do I have a place to tick off the habit as done, I also have a place to see progress, positive progress more importantly. So for example, I'm filming this on October 20th, and this is what I've done so far for October. So I have 7 runs already. My goal was to do 10, and as I see this number getting closer to 10, the more I want to achieve it. This kind of momentum is what I didn't want to stop, so I decided to create a run tracker. But I eliminated everything else that I was tracking because it was just getting to be too much. And this is a huge part of intentionality. Pair off, eliminate everything that is non-essential when you're feeling overwhelmed. If you love tracking everything, do it. But when it becomes too much, don't be afraid to stop. Mid-month, I literally stopped tracking 10 days ago and everything just looks terrible on my pages, but eliminate it and focus on the things that matter. Simplify and reduce to the essential things. Finally, I mean, this R is kind of like a little bit of a play on the words because it works for the run, but it's actually to get started on the review for the month. This is the space that I left, planning to write the wins over here, and on this page the rest of my review. And then this is actually, decoratively, it is my favorite spread because, I don't know, it kind of looks like leaves falling, but this is a brain dump page. So when I'm planning my months, I realize that I have this like friction between the review and then the next month I automatically have to make it into like a beautiful chart, organized to share it on Instagram or to have it organized on my bullet journal. I need a bridge, somewhere that takes me from the month I was at to the month where I'm going to go, and that is what this page is about. It literally just says, what about next month? And the idea is to brain dump here what I want to get done, what I want to do, how I'm going to achieve the goals that I'm missing, blah 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 blah, the whole thing. So that is it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I would love to have you guys back here, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed this kind of format. I do like talking a little bit about the plans more than just what I'm doing with the spreads. I separated it for you guys into one part and part two just because I feel like if you don't want to watch me talk about it, you can skip it. Let me know if you guys like this format or if you prefer to just do the spreads or just do the talking or to mix it up a bit. You just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, I will leave you guys with the final flip through. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.